This is a video addressed to Emendum. Hello there, Gary. I'm not sure if it's a response specifically to any of your videos, nor am I sure if it's a conversation or an argument. Take it either way, really. And in a sense it's a remake of quite a few of the video exchanges that we've had, Gary, over the months. Going back to the first video I made, actually, when kind of addressed to you, or at least talking about you, to do with original evolutionary sin. If I remember rightly, that was the first time I overlapped with what you were talking about. And what I was saying then, I think, if I remember rightly, a while back, is the idea that, you know, even if evolution had reached its end point, whatever that means, I know it doesn't make any sense, but even if we had evolved to this almost divine state of perfection, and we were these beings that were completely free of the instincts to murder and the instincts to kill, and we were full of compassion, not just for one another, but for animals and for the planet, and for not just for life even, but for inanimate objects. And we were really on a project. We were working together as a species, amongst other species and amongst other bits of chemistry and physics. We really did feel like we were on a project that was going to make the world a better place, and the power of our rational minds, if you like, was going to help us do that. Even if we were in that position, we would be also having to contend with the fact that we're in this position because of millions of years of the operation of essentially a meat grinding machine. And I know that's something you've talked about in kind of different ways, really. And I refer to that as original evolutionary sin. That even, as I say, even if we become angels, they're angels with anuses, as Corey Anton said. There's a lot of shit trailing out behind us, which is, as I say, all these millions of years of natural selection doing its deeds, which are not necessarily to be celebrated. And even the kinds of celebrations that we make of our qualities now, you know what I mean? The things that we would like to perhaps promote now, things like compassion, things like altruism, things like empathy, all that good stuff. We still have to face with the fact that all those qualities are produced by the meat grinder. Empathy is, which we can take as some kind of moral truth. It wasn't produced, it didn't descend from the skies as a moral truth. It evolved as a means by our genes, to allow our genes to selfishly select one another in preference to the genes of other more distantly related species or distantly related humans. That's where empathy comes from. And sure, we can cherry pick it and use it as an emotional, as a kind of ethical absolute. But it's an emotion and a morality that's, as I said, it comes out of the operation of the meat grinder. Because sometimes I'm not a pessimistic guy most of the time. I'm quite, I don't know, neither optimistic nor pessimistic. But I'm not particularly pessimistic, and I do recognise a lot of good things in the world. I recognise a lot of bad things too, but I think generally, apart from the population thing, which is obviously a bit of a problem, but it is solvable, I think. Apart from that, I think the world is getting better, and there's that great Steven Pinker talk about history of violence, for example. And he's talking about human violence, but also human on animal violence. About how the last, whichever scale you look at it, or look at a scale of centuries or decades or just years, human beings seem to be a lot less violent than they used to be. So recognising things like that and the potential for change is fine. But I always stick at that evolutionary sin point, you know what I mean? That even if I could convince myself that the problems we have now are solvable, I still don't know personally what to do with that history. Really, I still don't know what to do with that history. Our rooms are still lit with lamps that have got shades made out of human skin. They're not really, of course. But we are, in a sense, still using the science that was in some cases, developed in the concentration camps. You know, we're using contaminated materials, or part of me feels that we're using contaminated materials. And is it possible to get to any kind of idealised future when that's the case? You know, what kind of a break would have to happen in us? What kind of a transformation would have to happen in us to allow us to truly put the past behind us? I mean, even the VR thing that you talk about, Gary, and which I've flirted with as well occasionally, you know, that's not really an escape from that, is it? I mean, it's an escape into a, you know, out of the kind of realities of getting and spending and killing and fucking and all that kind of stuff that we do in the real world, and putting that into a space where it can happen without the consequences on other people. But it still doesn't buy us out of the trajectory of our own histories. Yeah, I suppose all I'm saying is morally and ethically, I personally don't know what to do with that. And there's probably answers to it. I know there's certainly religious answers to it, which is where the ideas of original sin came from in the first place, I guess. And where ideas of karmic reincarnation and all those kind of things come from. But I don't know where to, personally I haven't got a good answer to that, a good story to tell me how I can get to where I want to go from where I am now, really. You can't get there from here, you know what I mean, one of those things. Anyway, that's all.